Hey gorgeous, love you and I hope you're okay. Here we go. Silence filled the room, then suddenly Sock's musical laughter pealed through the station. He was laughing so hard he had to lean against the Datsun he'd been working on. So that's it, huh? That's what you were going to tell me about rooftops? Dan, that is all you can know until you can do, he answered. You mean you're going to teach me how to jump on the roof? I asked, my demeanour suddenly brightening. Maybe, maybe not. For now, toss me that screwdriver, will you? I threw it to him. I swear he grabbed it out of the air while looking in the other direction. He finished with it quickly and tossed it back to me, yelling, "Heads up." I dropped it and it fell to the floor with a loud clatter. This was exasperating. I didn't know how much more ridicule I could take. The weeks passed quickly and my sleepless nights became commonplace. Somehow I adjusted, and there was another change. I found that my visits with Socrates were becoming even more interesting to me than gymnastics practice. Each night while we serviced cars, he put the gas in, I did windows, and both of us joked with customers. He would encourage me to talk about my life. He was strangely silent about his own, meeting my questions with a terse "later" or answering in complete non sequiturs. When I asked him why he was so interested in the details of my life, he said, "I need to understand your personal illusions to grasp the scope of your illness. We're going to have to clear your mind before the door to the Warrior's Way can open." Don't you touch my mind. I like it the way it is. If you really liked it the way it is, you wouldn't be here now. You've changed your mind many times in the past. Soon, you're going to do it in a more profound way. After that, I decided I was going to have to be very careful with this man. I didn't know him all that well, and I still wasn't sure how crazy he was. As it was, Sock's style was constantly changing, unorthodox, humorous, and even bizarre. Once he ran screaming after a little white dog that had just peed on the station steps. Right in the middle of a lecture he was giving me on the supreme benefits of an unshakably serene composure. Another time, about a week later, after we stayed up all night, we walked to Strawberry Creek and stood on a bridge, looking down at the stream overflowing with the winter rains. "I wonder how deep the stream is today," I casually remarked, gazing absent-mindedly down into the rushing waters. The next thing I knew, I'd splashed into the churning muddy brown water. He'd thrown me off the bridge. "Well, how deep is it?" "Deep enough," I sputtered, dragging myself and my waterlogged clothes to shore. So much for idle speculation. I made a mental note to keep my mouth shut. As the days passed, I started to notice more and more differences between us. In the office, I'd devour candy bars when I got hungry. Sock munched on a fresh apple or pear or made himself herb tea. I fidgeted around on the couch while he sat serenely still on his chair like a Buddha. My movements were awkward and noisy compared to the way he softly glided across the floor. And he was an old man, mind you. There were many small lessons that awaited me each night, even in the early days. One night I made the mistake of complaining about how people at school just didn't seem to act very friendly toward me. Softly he said, "It's better for you to take responsibility for your life as it is, instead of blaming others or circumstances for your predicament. As your eyes open, you'll see that your state of health, happiness, and every circumstance of your life has been, in large part, arranged by you, consciously or unconsciously." I don't know what you mean, but I don't think I agree with it. I once knew a guy like you. I met him on a construction site in the Midwest. When the lunch whistle blew, all the workers would sit down together and eat, and every day Sam would open his lunch pail and start to complain. "Son of a gun," he'd cry, "not peanut butter and jelly sandwiches again. I hate peanut butter and jelly." He whined about his peanut butter and jelly sandwiches day after day until one of the guys on the work crew finally said, "For Christ's sake, Sam, if you hate peanut butter and jelly so much, why don't you just tell your old lady to make you something different?" "What do you mean, my old lady?" Sam replied. "I'm not married. I make my own sandwiches." Socrates paused, then added, "We'll make our own sandwiches." He handed me a brown bag with 2 sandwiches in it. "Do you want the cheese and tomato, or tomato and cheese?" he asked, grinning. "I'll just give me either," I jested back. As we munched, Socrates said, "When you become fully responsible for your life, you can become fully human. Once you become human, you may discover what it means to be a warrior." Thanks, Sock, for the food for thought, and for belly. I bowed grandly. Then I put on my jacket and got ready to leave. I won't be by for a couple of weeks. Finals are coming up, and I also have some hard thinking to do. Before he could comment, I waved goodbye and left for home. I lost myself in the semester's last classes. My hours in the gym were spent in the hardest training I'd ever done. Whenever I stopped pushing myself, my thoughts and feelings began to stir uneasily. I felt the first signs of what was to become a growing sense of alienation from my everyday world. For the first time in my life, I had a choice between two distinct realities. One was crazy and one was sane, but I didn't know which was which, so I committed myself to neither. I couldn't shake a growing sense that maybe, just maybe, Socrates was not so eccentric after all. Perhaps his descriptions of my life had been more accurate than I'd imagined. I began to really see how I acted with people, and what I saw began to disturb me. I was sociable enough on the outside, but I was really only concerned about myself. Bill, one of my best friends, fell from the pommel horse and broke his wrist. Rick learned a full twisting back somersault that I'd been working on for a year. I felt the same emotional response in both cases. Nothing. Under the weight of my growing self-knowledge, my self-image was sinking fast. One night, just before finals, I heard a knock at my door. I was surprised and happy to find Toothpaste Susie, the blonde cheerleader I hadn't seen in weeks. I realised how lonely I'd been. "Aren't you going to invite me in, Danny?" "Oh yes, I'm really glad to see you. Sit down, let me take your coat. Would you like something to eat? Something to drink?" She just gazed at me. "What is it, Susie? You look tired, Danny," but she reached out and touched my face. "There's something. Your eyes look different somehow. What is it?" I touched her cheek. "Stay with me tonight, Susie." "I thought you'd never ask. I brought my toothbrush." The next morning I turned over to smell Sue's tousled hair, sweet like summer straw, and to feel her soft breath on my pillow. I should feel good, I thought, but my mood was grey, like the fog outside. For the next few days, Sue and I spent a lot of time together. I don't think I was very good company, but Sue's spirits were enough for both of us. Something kept me from telling her about Socrates. He was of another world, a world in which she had no part. How could she understand when I couldn't even fathom what was happening to me? Finals came and went. I did well, but I didn't care. Susie went home for spring vacation, and I was glad to be alone. Spring vacation was soon over, and warm winds blew through the littered streets of Berkeley. I knew that it was time to return to the warrior's world, so that strange little gas station, this time perhaps more open and more humble than before. But now I was more sure of one thing. If Socrates cut at me with his sharp wit again, I was going to slash right back. Well, that's the end of the first chapter, darling. I miss you loads and loads today. I want to tell you that I love you with all my heart, and I can't wait to see you and be with you. I got a letter or a card from you today, and it was really beautiful, and I smiled all day. I hope you're okay and sweet dreams. Well, I don't know when you'll listen to this or hear this, but I love you.